Hello and welcome back, beautiful soul. Angel Lady Terry Marie here with another amazing guest, Erin Smith. This is Permission to Follow Your Inner GPS, your inner guided purpose soul path. Erin Smith is a passionate educator who is ready to help spark a trend on revamping our schools and fixing the current workforce pipeline. His calling has enabled him to see the problems our society faces in educating and inviting others to join in the crusade to making our children's future brighter. And how appropriate, how spot on and timely this is. Please welcome Erin Smith. Hey, handsome, how are you doing?
Hey, sweetie, how are you doing? Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure. I was so happy that you said yes more than once and that we got this together, because what you're doing and your journey I can only imagine, I don't have children, but my nephew has kids and this and that, and lots of people do. So how do we revamp within the system, because it's done this way for so long and it can't possibly be done any other way according to some entrenched bureaucrats. And I'm going to leave it there. So please tell us how you got into this.
Well, I think number one for me is I've been an educator for 21 years. Love what I'm doing. I'm having a great time working with a lot of phenomenal kids and parents and staff along the way. And the more I look at this, the more social media reminds me that education is really not serving the purpose in its entirety the way it should. And don't get me wrong, there are some phenomenal teachers out there. There are some phenomenal kids out there. But as a whole, we really need to step our game up because the model is really antiquated. And rather than focusing on the negativity of it, I believe it's time that we focus on the positive and bring out the best. And the only way I know how to do that is to ask for support no matter where you are. And the more we can raise awareness, the more we can raise familiarity so that parents feel comfortable asking those questions and, more importantly, supporting and walking side by side with teachers, the better and the quicker that transition is going to be.
I totally agree. The negative needs to be identified. In Heavenly Days, it has been identified to Kingdom Come and back again. So now that we know what isn't working, I love that you're saying, okay, got that, acknowledge it. So now let's switch it around and be more positive. What are the positive things? Well, there's lots of positive. It's just we humans tend to gravitate towards the other side. Dang it.
Very sad and true. Yes.
So what have been some of the challenges? How did you get from being an educator, and I realize you probably still are, but how did you get from the one piece to adding the other piece?
Okay. Well, I'd written my first book called Awakening Your STEM School. And that allowed, no matter who you are, as a parent, as an educator, to get on that continuum, because that's part of the next step, the 21st century education that all kids should have, no matter where they are in the world. So I started writing my second book, and it really focused on one central question: what does it take to build the perfect public school? If you take away the variables, if you take away the hypotheticals, and you just dreamed, and that's what it really focused on, is allowing people to dream as to what you can do. Then I was working on my last edit, and then I wanted to make sure people understood that graduates need to be competent in their skills, but also confident. And what ties in with that is workplace readiness. So as I'm researching, I realize, oh my gosh, there is no systematic way to make this happen. So after a little bit of research and doing some things, it's a huge topic, and they focus on the individual, which is good, but you have to develop the pipeline as you're working on the individuals. So that's where I really came up with that 5-step process from A to Z to really transform the industry, transform graduates, and change diplomas to dollars.
Change diplomas to dollars, because I remember, a million years ago when I went through high school, it didn't teach us everyday tools or techniques. You know, geometry and algebra are great if you're going to go into those fields, but it was never anything that I was able to resonate with, and my teacher didn't like it when I intuitively knew the answers and couldn't show my work. It's like, but isn't it right? And she would say yes, but it was, there was so much of a disconnect. So how do you individualize and create a pipeline all at the same time?
Well, that's where you have to bring a lot of people into the same form, if you will. And number one is when you get those people to sit down, it's multiple people. It's people within the school system. It is people in the workforce. It is people in colleges. It is people in the city, all sitting down and creating a common investment. They have to be able to talk the same talk. They have to define what is workplace readiness to them. Because in one region or one industry, the definition can be completely different. While you're doing that, you have to say, what is the profile that you want your employees to have? Then you mirror that with the kids that are just graduating or still in college, and you say, here are their strengths, here are their weaknesses, and then you create a cross between the two. So that's really the first step, is having everybody talk the same talk and start to walk the same walk. The second step is taking the inventory. You have to look within the schools, within the colleges, and everywhere that this is being touched to then determine what do you need and what do you currently have. So I didn't mean to cut you off. It looked like you had a question or a thought that came up.
I do, but I wanted you to finish yours.
Okay.
Thank you. So regional, yes, absolutely. How do you create, or is it possible to create an overall and then customize to a certain extent by region?
Yes. And I'm reminding myself, we are only bound by our imagination, and nothing's impossible. You just have to sit down and determine what are the national skill sets that are needed, and then compare it to the regional or even the local skills and needs. Because when you look at a national certification, and I'll pick an A&P mechanic that works on airplanes, okay? You are certified. You can work in Seattle, you can work in El Paso, you can work in Newport News, Virginia. But what you may not understand is in Virginia, the planes are different more than likely than they are in El Paso and Seattle. So that's where the skill sets may be a little bit different. So you have to be able to identify some of those extras that you need compared to the other places that may not need.
Interesting. What kind of, I can barely even imagine what kind of challenges you've had in introducing this kind of a generalized or generally specific pipeline system.
Well, and truth be told, the number one thing is I'm just beginning to get my message out. I really didn't discover this until midsummer. So it's one of those things where I don't believe you need to wait until it's perfected. You need to start the conversation now, and you need to refine it and go back and have those conversations like, oh my gosh, I forgot this, or you really need to think about this. Because when you share, you're truly caring. In between that, you're building your model for a structured success. And that's kind of my approach to it. If we wait until everything is perfected, it'll never get done.
And too many children, and nobody send any nasty notes, because children, between 3 and 29, okay? We're all still learning. And even at our physical age, I'm still learning every day. But in the school system, it's so structured that there has to be room for some flexibility within the system. So how are you getting your message out?
Well, number one, just like we're doing right now with podcasting, and just sharing with everybody that parents, don't just sit on the sidelines. You need to understand You don't want your children sitting in your living rooms until they're 35 years old. You want them out and gainfully employed, because not only is that a win for your children, it's more importantly a win for our society too. It lowers the tax dollars, it lowers crime and poverty. There's a lot of benefits to that. And one thing I'm asking everybody to do is, reach out, contact your school systems, contact your businesses, tell them we need to engage in these conversations. We need to figure out what's going to work for our area. Another big issue that we're having is the funding for this. And that's actually the third step to this. Schools are already strapped, and they are truly miracle workers because they barely have enough to operate within the school system for a normal budget. To do the extra, you have to find things like grants. And again, that's why I'm talking about bringing the partners to the table and let them know it's not just the school system that needs this. Everybody needs this investment.
I agree, because when sorry, this is a dynamic. I love this. I love it. I agree. The community, I don't like the words need, shoulda, woulda, coulda, but they do need and get to step up, because then that helps create better equipped and qualified workers, whatever the industry is, because holy smokes, turnover can be very costly for any industry.
It does. It does. And I guess going back to the aviation world, there's a Boeing report that actually says within the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to be losing over 600,000 in maintenance folks, pilots, all these people, because they're aging out and there's not enough of demand for that. And what's going to happen is these companies are going to get up and leave, because they're not going to find people in these localities. Human resources are going to start initially tapping outside the circle. And if they don't see anything, the ultimate thing is making sure that the bottom line is secured in a profit. So they are eventually going to move out. And unfortunately, we're seeing this already.
So what are some of the obstacles or the resistance that you're facing? Yes, it's just since this summer, but what are you already facing as far as, oh my goodness, it's just been done this way? Or
that's a part of it. The people that I have been blessed to be a part of have understood the conversations. And, getting the word out is important, but receiving the message is just as important. You're going to have places and people that are just going to be in denial and think everything is fine. You're going to have people that are going to think this is impossible. You're going to have people that are going to think there's no way this model will work. And the way I try to counter that argument is, how do you know that the astronauts landed on the moon? You didn't until they did it. So unless you have a plan, you're going to keep going in a vicious cycle. And that's Einstein's definition of insanity.
And there's plenty of that to go around without perpetuating it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The longer we delay, the worse it is for our kids. And, unfortunately, we are losing some of the kids to the streets. We're losing kids to social media. We're losing kids to their communication devices, because they are longing to be connected. They are longing to feel valued. And I've seen it become a game changer for kids. If you hook them up with the right tools, the right people, and the right opportunities, all that stuff will go to the side, and they will be focused, and they will be a committed and a productive citizen for the rest of their life.
I totally believe that. I really agree with you. And there's no but to that either. There's no but coming. Usually, okay, here comes a but. No. The kids, the millennials, and I don't even pretend to understand what a Generation X or a millennial. I have an understanding that millennials are more connected once they're born, because that technology that's come through the DNA and the genealogy in that way. So yes, they have to pick it up. And some folks are more prone to different things. And yet we as a collective are more connected now to people in countries I've never even heard of, and I'm not sure I can find on the map, no disrespect intended. But this technology now connects us. So how else do we help those? How do we reach a hand back to help them be connected in a way that benefits them, which then benefits the whole?
It goes back to that old expression, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
And, you know, not everybody can do everything, but everybody can do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I remind my parents all the time, some of them are very apologetic to me because they're working 2 and 3 jobs.
Yes.
And I'm like, do not apologize because you're trying to put a roof over your head. You're trying to feed your babies. Don't ever apologize. All I need from you is just to be a phone call away or pick up the email to me. I will help you do anything you need me to do. Just, we've got to keep this dialogue going. You know, you have to have the community invested in our children. That is our most precious resource. You know, the children now are smarter than they were when I first got into education. I totally believe that because they have so many more resources. Mm-hmm. They have so many more opportunities. The problem is they're lacking a little bit of guidance and structure. And I'm not saying parents aren't doing their job. I'm not saying teachers aren't doing their job, but there's moments where if you're not careful, we're going to lose them.
Well, the teachers, one of my close friends, she's now retired several years, was a guidance counselor in an elementary school. And every time they got a pay raise, they added a day. So it really wasn't a pay raise. Yep. So by the time the educators, you know, the guidance counselors and the teachers go back to school, they've got 30 days more than the kids do. And what are they doing? I'm not saying they're not doing anything. I don't mean that. But they're not being fully utilized. They have these in-service things, and it's like, what? And my girlfriend used to be just totally, she says, I'm just totally bored because it's not relevant.
Right.
It's just somebody perpetuating their own job. So maybe, and I am speaking way out of my expertise field here, you could help retool that. Is it your understanding or your sense of things that getting the community involved, the parents, and having it create traction and momentum from that place, like an upwelling, that's the word, an upwelling will help get the movement in the school system itself? Oh. Mm-mm.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
It's not like the Verizon okay. Commercial.
Communication angels, clear it. Thank you. Whoa.
That was weird. My mute button just went the line. So anyway, to answer your question, having the parents in the community involved, the churches involved, that is a great start because school leaders should listen with the parents because they're the ones that are key stakeholders in this, just like the corporations are. And then the administration has to set a vision for their staff to say, let's walk this together. Because when it gets ingrained in a culture, then it becomes very, very longevistic that it stays within its place.
Okay. Your system that you have and are creating, because it feels like a living document, kind of I don't know the other word besides a document, but a living, breathing, expanding, forward moving movement, I guess. Mm-hmm. Will this, or does this already have some kind of a vision outline for the higher educators, meaning the principals and the key people who actually will be able to start implementing the vision that you're speaking of?
That's where I was talking about bringing all the stakeholders to the table. Okay. And it's so important that we have that because the fourth step in this, the fourth or the fifth step is you make an action plan. This is where you've gotten the money. It's now putting the rubber to the road and now seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And when you make an action plan, you obviously want to take away something that's going to make your part of the circle empowered. And you have to create buy-in so that the people who surround you feel like this is going to be doable. All right. So, it's a synergy that slowly gets created. And really, once you have that funding there, that's the core to it. Because number one thing is everybody says, how do you pay for it? Well, we've got that problem taken care of now. So what's your next excuse? Well, we can know the people to do it. You find the right people and you take them to the table and you say, let's get this going. Some of the best lessons that I've ever seen from teachers are not the ones that are always on paper. They're the ones that are fluid, and they change in and change out because their spider senses kick in and they say, I need to do this and I need to do that. So that's what makes this a live document, so to say. But in the middle of that, the last step is where you're getting STEM and career and technology education involved. What STEM stands for is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And that's what breathes life into it. This is where you have robotics in a classroom. You have drones flying, taking aerial images. You have the critical thinking that the companies demand. You have processing of information. You're really doing so many things that is closing that skills gap, from the soft skills to the hard skills to the education experiences that everybody needs in life. And really, that's what it is. Once you have the 5 steps embedded and constantly in motion, you just revisit it. You say, what's working, what's not working, how do we make that work from there?
I'm trying to translate the question. Thankfully, you understand that. So, right, okay. So this model would also help free up the educators, the teachers, the guidance counselors to be able to move more freely within a system? Is that right?
Not initially, but yes.
Okay.
In a high school, for example, you have to build certain sections of repeat courses, Algebra 1, 9th grade English, because the kids didn't get it for whatever reason. They could be attendance. They just didn't understand the material. And once you build these things in place, you're going to slowly start to see some reductions in the classes, the repeat classes that are taken away. When that happens, then you're freeing up teachers, which are going to lower the class sizes. That's going to create better opportunities for the counselors and the career coaches to get in there and really become embedded in the children's lives. That's just the school side of it. When you have the graduates come out, then the employees don't have to pay for retraining, because some of the training has initially taken place in the schools and the colleges because they've already started talking the talk and identifying the same vision. So guess what happens in there? You then invest that money, the retraining money, into research and development, which pushes the product down the pipeline even further for the next generation of profits.
Thankfully, somebody has not only thought of this, you started putting a plan of action together and creating traction and reaching out to the community and to the parents. And probably a few schools in there too.
Sure hope so.
Wow. Would you come back again in the near future and share more about this, or what other steps or traction? I'm running out of words for your particular specialty here, but would you come back and share your experiences and your successes?
I would be honored to.
Awesome.
I mean, you're a good friend of mine. I'll do anything for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Please tell our viewers how they can connect with you. So if y'all want to help in this, no matter what state you're in, this is in the U.S. Now, I'm not saying anybody else can't, no, but right now it's U.S. based. Fair enough?
Let's put it this way. I wouldn't be opposed to having anybody anywhere have a conversation, because remember, there's kids on the earth.
Yes.
And part of my calling is to help make it better for kids everywhere.
So with that said, how can our viewers find you? How can they connect with you, Aaron?
Well, of course, the website is just simple, Solutions. It stands for Workplace Readiness Solutions. And it's just no HTTPS at all. It'll automatically pop up, WR.solution. I'm on Twitter at Work Readiness. I'm on LinkedIn at Aaron L. Smith. And just email me, aaron@wr.solutions. I will be honored to talk to anybody.
And he's on Facebook.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for this time and your energy and for all of your efforts on behalf of everybody's kids and grandkids and nieces and nephews everywhere. This is, politely said, way overdue.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoy it. That's our intention, is to help y'all get your messages out and have fun along the way.
Definitely.
So, beautiful soul, thank you so much for joining us for yet another episode of Permission to Follow Your Inner GPS. Please do stop by angeldreamteam.com and get your free copy of Angels, Success, and Prosperity. Become a mover and shaker of your reality. Until next time, be kind to yourself, follow your dreams and your passion. Bye-bye for now.